one of Linux operating system. Cloudera likes the CentOS. Because of that, the virtual machine uses the CentOS. And the Red Hat can be used for the commercial purpose. Like the company, some of the big company, they want to use the Linux, but Linux is open source. So they need someone who can be in charge of the system, which means if the server is down, somebody needs to fix, okay, even though they pay. So that is the Red Hat. The enterprise Linux is not free. You need to pay based on the number of the CPU or the server. Then, which means in case something happens, this according to the agreement between the customer and Red Hat, they can solve the problem. Okay. It is possible you can have the Red Hat for the master node because master node itself is very important comparing to the other, the slave node. So you can use the CentOS because it's free for this one and only for the master node. There might be no problem. Fedora OS has been used a lot for the distributed operating system. So still used for the Hadoop, but I never tested. So if we are familiar with the Fedora OS, it's okay. Ubuntu is one of the most popular the Linux operating system for general purpose. Okay, so if you want to use the Ubuntu, there is the LTS long-term support, which is stable version. Okay, so you can use the Ubuntu LTS. Okay, SUSE also there is Cloudera provided. We will see what is the CDH later. The Cloudera also uses the SUSE. We can use the Solaris or other operating system, but Unix system not very recommended. You don't have to use the LVM, this logical volume manager, to partition using the Linux operating system. Okay. Instead, we'd like to use the ext3 or 4 as a local file system, which is recommended. BIOS setting cannot be controlled by the CDH. Actually, Hadoop cannot control BIOS, so before you install, you need to properly upgrade any the firmware or the BIOS setting. Okay. Then finally, you can mount the system. This is the mount point. Then the ext3 or 4 are recommended as a local file system, and XFS I can't remember what is XFS. Let me see. Okay. So in case you are familiar with the SE Linux means it's a security enhanced Linux. So if you have such a security enhanced Linux, it may affect the functionality of the Hadoop, because Hadoop is anyway cluster along the different server. They are connected each other. So if you have very strong security policy, it cannot be running properly. So you can disable the SE Linux. Okay? And Hadoop is based on the traditional IP. So IPv6 should be disabled. And they recommended to use the official version of the Java virtual machine. And the 0.6 is required. 0.7 is running. I tested, so there might be no problem. Okay. Then you can download the Hadoop, then install it. If you go to the Apache Hadoop, hadoop.apache.org, the current version is 2.6 is the stable version, and 2.7 is the newest, latest version. But latest version usually is not recommended for the production. But for the beginner user, it's not much different. Okay, so you can download and install, or you can use the Cloudera distribution Hadoop, Apache Hadoop. That is called the CDH. So Cloudera is the company founded by the several important personalities who contribute to the Apache Hadoop, the foundation. Actually, some of them actually start from the Google, then move to the Yahoo, then finally they join the Apache Hadoop. Then they realize that this will be very important product, but nobody in charge, or in case something problem or happen or the not very convenient for end user. So they decide to make the company that is a Cloudera. So Cloudera, sometimes they develop the component or ecosystem. And mostly on top of Apache Hadoop system, Hadoop and MapReduce, on top of that kind of management or installation or the easy interface. So if you want to install the Hadoop using the CDH, you can just download the Cloudera management. Then if you don't have to specify which one is the data node, which one is the master node. It's automatically check all the system. Then select one of the best, the machine for the master node and the other. You can just click and selection of the component ecosystem. Then that's it. It's automatically set. Very easy, very convenient. But for your practice in the exercise lab, you are not going to use the CDH. Instead, you are going to set up manually. Okay. So how can we do that? There are 3 types we already discussed. So keep in mind, everything is running on top of Java Virtual Machine. Okay. So when you tune your system, when you have the benchmarking test, so you need to think about how much the Java Virtual Machine is working, like the increase the heap size or what is the proper size of the Java Virtual Machine, something like that. Okay. Then data will be stored at the HDFS as we have learned before. So we are going to test with a fully distributed mode. Actually not fully distributed mode because we are going to test with only 3 computers. How can we directly install? So you should be familiar with the installation, the application program provided by your operating system. For example, Red Hat use the Kickstart and Debian, the CentOS use the Yum, or sometimes you can use the RPM, okay, the package. So you should be familiar with such a installer. So once, also you can download the source file tarball, which is called the tarball. You can download the tar file, then you can directly compile and run install. So that is also possible. So these are some example of installing the Hadoop. Like you can use the yum install or the apt-get or the sudo yum. But it's already installed, that software, but you are going to configure that to start up the Hadoop system. So we are not going to learn all the demo, but we will learn in the data node, the task tracker, and naming node, the job tracker. Okay, secondary naming node. But one node will be used for the master node as well as the data node. That node will have all these, the daemon, and the other 2 computers will have the data node and the task tracker. Okay, that is our plan. Then how can we start? There is a script that can start all the daemon process. So starting the Hadoop means starting the daemon process. That's the same as other DBMs. Oracle, when you start up the Oracle machine, that means you can start processes. Then reserve the specific area of the memory. That's it. But Hadoop means we are going to use the Java Virtual Machine. So on top of Java Virtual Machine, we are going to run the process. Okay, that's it. No, on Java Virtual, not Java Virtual Machine. So your process are daemon process. It's not on top of the Java Virtual Machine. So we are going to use the Java Virtual Machine to submit the job or to run the task. So to do that, this start all and stop all script because from one machine to another, it should be remotely connected. At that time, we only use the SSH. Otherwise, we do not use SSH. Instead, when your job need to communicate each other, we are going to use Hadoop use RMI. Okay, RMI protocol for the communication using Java version, the Java provided by the Java. Okay. So you can test whether you with word count or very simple the program after you set it. I'm going to skip the Cloudera Manager. Then the configuration to set up the Hadoop and MapReduce. Move the configuration file on the etc on the etc on the Hadoop on the conf you have the configuration file, and also all the configuration file the XML format. XML format means it has a tag and value. So what kind of the XML file? We have the core site.xml file. That means it's a configuration file, entire setup, overall setup of your system. Then two main components of the Hadoop. One is the HDFS that will be configured by the HDFS-site.xml file, and also MapReduce is configured by the MapReduce site.xml file. This is not using the Yarn. So in case of Yarn, it will be actually not slightly, it's different. Okay. So, but we are not going to use the Yarn Resource Manager. So this is the setup without using the Yarn. There is another shell script to set up the Hadoop environment. So did you feel sometimes it's a little bit complicated to set up the class file when you are using the Java? Okay, you need the proper class path to run the Java class file or Java application. So you need to set up the class path or the something path or the Java class path. It's the same thing because our Hadoop system is based on the Java virtual machine. So we need to have the proper the environment variable for the Hadoop. So that we will see what kind of that. Current version of CDH is 5. Okay. So, however, this slide is the Cloudera does not provide anymore for the administrative. So because they want to set their CDH, Cloudera, the distributive Hadoop or the Cloudera Manager, okay, instead of manual setting. So because of that, it's still the old version, but it will be the configuration. This will be automatically set by the Cloudera if you install the Hadoop using Cloudera Manager. But in case of the manual setting that we are going to do the next class, at the time you need to specify the value of the specific property. Okay. So these are the example of the XML file that you can see. As you can see, that there is the name and value. So you need to specify the parameter name and parameter value. In this case, it's the job tracker. It's a MapReduce site. It's a set configuration file for the MapReduce, and MapReduce the tracker. Tracker is the daemon for the job, the task tracker. It's a for each data node, then running to process your MapReduce programming, and where the localhost, so 8021, the port. So you can specify that value and for the specific parameter. We will see such a value. So these are the typical the template to set up the parameter value for in the Hadoop. So name, value, final, sometime. So there are 3. Okay, so first the HDFS side. So to set up the HDFS, the file system. So DFS, using the dfs.name.dir, you can specify the location where HDFS will be created. HDFS file system will be created. If you have the multiple, you can use the comma separator to specify the multiple locations. In case of using NFS, you need to be careful. NFS sometimes can be disconnected because of the network failure. So you need to specify how many times retry and what is the maximum time to inform to the operating system this NFS is disconnected, something like that. So you can, as we have discussed before, the HDFS had to use the bigger size of the block size. So 64 megabytes or 128 megabytes, you can specify that block size over here. DFS block that size, so 64 or the 128. Default is 64. If we do not specify this one, always the header configuration file will use the default value. Okay. Is the DFS application, as we have learned, as a default 3 copies of that. If you believe that you need more the copies of the data block, so you can specify the value, like 5, 6, 7, so on. But at that time you need to think about the whether you have enough the storage to keep the multiple copy of the data. And also this the HTTP address will be used for monitoring. So because the all communication method used in the header is based on HTTP, which means you can use the web browser even to see the data in the HDFS. You can type the host name or IP address and proper port number. Then it will show the sometimes data. Well, really you can see the data. It doesn't show the all the data block 128 megabyte or 64 megabyte, but it shows the header of the data. Also, you can see the file information. You can see the other information about the header. So it's to provide web user interface. So that will be specified here. And core site is overall configuration of your system. Okay. So it uses the default name. So name of default file, your file system. So your naming node, semicolon 8020. Then you can see the the header information you can browse. Okay. Temporary space and job tracker. Okay. So you can specify where is the job tracker. And there are job options because our header system are based on the Java virtual machine. So you need to sometimes specify the option for the Java specific the parameter, such as the heap size. This is the same. I guess this is the same option used in the Java. When you run the Java application, the Java and Java class name, at that time you can specify the default the initial Java virtual machine size. In other words, heap size, the process size. So that is a 200 megabyte for example here. Okay, you can increase a 512 or 1 gigabyte if you believe your job requires more space in the memory. This map RED, map reduce site.xml file specify the parameter value for the map reduce programming. This local.dir will be used for the intermediate data. Okay, kind of temporary space, and the final output will be stored at the HDFS. And also, if you are running the other header component, like the HBase is most popular one. So at the time, you need to give the resource to the other the component, like the 50% 50% of your entire resource will be used for HBase, and the other will be used for the HDF, the HBase and HDFS. We will see details about what is the region server and what is the HBase in the probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. So these are the list of the files that you can set up or change. So Hadoop env.sh is a script to set up the Hadoop related environment variable. It's a Unix environment variable like this one. So it Hadoop underbar class path. You can specify the class path for the Hadoop. And so do you remember when you run the Hadoop command Hadoop? So there is a back quote and then Hadoop env. Then actually it execute the Hadoop env environment variable will be added. So that is actually this one. And heap size default is 1 GB. If you believe that your job is need more space in the memory, you can change it this one. This can be always override by the option when you run your command. Okay, so always the option used in the your Hadoop command is the last one will be applied. And however, this will override the value you set up in the .xml file. So .xml file is the first the overall the default value. Then it can be override by this one. Then it can be override by your command line, the value option. Okay, so I quickly move. The more important thing is because you already understand the overall architecture of the Hadoop. So I don't think you will have a chance later, even though you got a job in the Hadoop or the Hadoop the MapReduce developer, because nowadays most of the system will be configured automatically or configured by the such as Cloud Air Manager or something similar, the EG convenient interface. But it's a good exercise to understand how the Hadoop cluster is organizing and how they are working, how to set up specifications, how to change the parameter value, and so on. Also, one more important thing is probably you will realize that in the next week during the exercise lab, sometimes it's all perfect. It's exactly same as the given the exercise lab document you type, but because of the small mistake, like the space or white character, sometimes you copy and paste, so white character included, it's not running. Okay, so I strongly suggest type as it is. Okay, so type as it is in the rep document, then follow the direction of the GA. So I asked another PhD student who has the experience to set up the Hadoop, so he will join and help you guys to set up the Hadoop cluster. Okay, any question? After 5-minute break, so we will have the last part of the exercise lab for MapReduce program.
Problem?
Yes.
Yeah. If we are setting up Hadoop on a single machine and if we are setting up on a distributed machine, more than two machines, we are making a cluster. Then what is the configuration difference for that?
At the time, as you can see, you need to specify the location of the tracker, and you need to specify the location of the daemon. Okay, so if you are using the one, which means the pseudo cluster, or location will be your local machine. Okay, but using different port. However, if you are using the naming node and data node, then you do not run the data node daemon in the master node. Only naming node daemon and secondary naming node. Then this data node will run task tracker as well as the data node, the daemon process, and this one. So actually you need to start such a daemon per node. But when you have the 200 node, you cannot do that. Instead, you can use the shell programming. Start all shell. Yeah, then remotely using SSH connector start, remotely start. Okay, that's the difference. Any other question? Okay, so after a short break, we will continue further.